Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
I'm with Mahfuz Anam, the editor of the Bangladeshi newspaper, the Daily Star, not just Bangladesh's largest English language newspaper, but one of its biggest media spaces. And Mr. Anam is one of Bangladesh's leading intellectuals, also a muktijoddha, a freedom fighter. Mr. Anam, welcome to The Print.
Thank you.
So my first question to you is about the 50th anniversary of the Bangladesh Liberation War, 16th of December, and 17th is we celebrated here in India the victory over Pakistan in 1971. As a muktijoddha yourself, a former freedom fighter, what does this big anniversary mean to you?
If I may begin with a very personal anecdote, I was in a Indian Mukti Bahini camp on this very day, and I listened over the radio on the surrender of the Pakistan army. So I can almost, in a way, relive that moment, which was absolutely like a dream for us. And I was in this camp where I was one of the members of the second batch of commissioned officers of the Bangladesh Army. We were trained by Indian officers in a place called Murti, which is very close to the Bhutan border. And I would really begin by expressing my sincerest thanks, and I'm not saying it just out of formality, but out of a deep sense of gratitude. The contribution of the Indian people, the Indian army, the Indian political leadership, especially of Mrs. Indira Gandhi, in our struggle becoming so successful. So coming back to the day, it is really a magnificent sort of celebration for us, because
before you answer, you talk about the day. So you carried a weapon. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, well, yes, I did. In fact, that was our great privilege. We were all, I was in Dhaka University at that time, and Dhaka University being the center of student politics and in many sense national politics, and we were in the forefront of going into the war, being there. And on a personal level, it was a beautiful part of our life. But to be able to be a part of a process in which your own country is becoming free. How many generations can claim that that privilege?
So, but did you ever kill anybody? I mean.
No, I didn't kill anybody, but I saved myself from being killed many times. Most of the Mukti Bahinis, as we were guerrillas in the early stage. We didn't really have much arms, getting trained in the Indian. But I had in a way, a very special sort of special privilege, you can say, that while the war was going on, I was known to be a public speaker as a student. So the Bangladesh government in exile at that time, which was located in Theatre Road in Kolkata, selected me among few others to tour some Muslim majority provinces in India, which were becoming, if you like, influenced by the Pakistani propaganda that the Bangladesh Liberation War was like an Indian ploy or something. So I was invited to be one of the freedom fighters who went to these places. And I remember going to Hyderabad, to Vijayawada, to some other states there, Ujjain there, where I used to go to a city and then speak to various groups, like starting from the morning, say, group of journalists, then teachers association, and then women's association. I would give about a dozen speeches in a city talking about Bangladesh and the freedom struggle. The interesting anecdote here is that obviously in the evening there was to be a big public meeting, and these were majority Muslim audience, and they were actually confused about our liberation war. So to bring the crowd in, they used to have a film show. So, like at that time, Rajesh Khanna and Sharmila Tagore were very famous. So they would have a film, and everybody would be watching the film. And suddenly, at the interval, they would say, "ये एक नौजवान आया है बांग्लादेश से, ये कुछ कहना चाहता है," and I would give a speech, and everybody would be listening because they wanted to see the end of the film.
That's right. So the things that one has to do, right, from carrying a weapon to speaking in intervals during film shows. So after this, you went back, and
Yes.
then you were trained as a soldier.
Yeah, well, then I joined the second batch of the Bangladesh Army as a commissioned officer cadet, and it was during at the very last weeks of our training that the war ultimately broke out, in which Indian Army joined with our Mukti Bahini, and we became independent. So I was actually in an Indian Army camp on the 16th of December.
Inside Bangladesh.
No, this was in that camp, as I said,
In
a
India.
place called Murti.
And this is inside
which
India.
was near the Bhutan border.
Okay, in India.
In India, yeah.
Wow, so that's a remarkable story, and the fact that you're telling us this story of, it probably seems like yesterday, and now Prime Minister Modi of the BJP, another party, not Indira Gandhi's Congress, but an Indian, and I think as Prime Minister, he's the summit that is taking place with the Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. What is the significance of that, do you think, in today's India and Bangladesh?
Well, the first thing that I would like to underscore is the friendship, the relationship, the interdependency, the symbiotic relationship in many ways. It has matured. Bangladesh-India relationship had gone through lots of ups and downs. There has been dramatic and unfortunate political changes with the murder of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujib, and quite a directional change under military dictators. But all of it has been reversed. Now a party which led us during the liberation war, that party is in power. The daughter of the father of the nation is leading the nation. So the liberation narrative is very strongly now entrenched in the Bangladesh, if you like, narrative. And a part of that narrative is the contribution of India in that sense, but in real sense. But as I said, in spite of the ups and downs, and as neighbors, there will be issues of conflict, issues of not seeing in the same way. But I think our relationship has matured. And that is, I think, what I would like to underscore. On the economic front, on the security front, on understanding what are the Indians' primary concern, India being more appreciative of what the Bangladesh's primary concern. I think there is a maturity which has emerged here, which perhaps is the most important thing at this moment, in my view.
So would that also mean, when you talk about this maturity, would that also mean the ability to express our differences with each other? For example, a year or so ago, we had the National Register of Citizens in Assam. Then that was followed by the Citizenship Amendment Act, in which, as you perhaps know, that the minority people from all the countries surrounding India, whether Hindus, Buddhists, Sikhs, were given citizenship to come to India, but not Muslim people, not Muslims. So would these, and Bangladesh was pretty much a target in a lot of speeches that BJP leaders made. How did that go down?
It didn't go down well at all. And I think just as I mentioned maturity, I think those are, at least the comments made about Bangladesh by some Indian leaders were immensely immature, short-sighted, and I would even say insensitive. Now, on this understanding of some policies that an Indian government adopts. Now, in most cases, it's your policy adopted for your country, for your welfare. But when those policies actually affect let's say, our internal affairs, then it is more than a policy. It is not just accepting that another sovereign country has made a policy out of their own wisdom. Now, on this Muslim issue, obviously it has had an effect on Bangladesh. Bangladesh being, a Muslim majority country. So I think that policy is an Indian policy, and India did it on their own, out of their own wisdom. But I think it has implications whose historical evolution is to be seen in the future. I think singling out the Muslims, it cannot be expected to be accepted in a very natural way. The implication of such policies are long term in the future, and based on a very troublesome history of the past. So I personally think that this is something where Indian leadership will have to really be more introspective about it. What did they gain by doing this? And what did they lose by doing this? What they may lose in the future by doing this? I think it's a topic that they should really be reflecting about very seriously.
But these policies that India made were not for Bangladesh, as you readily admit. So what kind of impact did it have on Bangladesh? And I'm going to refer to Home Minister Amit Shah's remarks in a rally, and in the heat of a rally perhaps, where he said that these Muslim immigrants who come from Bangladesh into India were dimak ki tarah, they're like termites.
Yes. So, I think it was a very unfortunate comment, and it did hurt our feelings very deeply. I'm glad that we didn't really make too much out of it in the public domain nor in the media. But let us not underestimate the impact of such comments. It was absolutely unnecessary and impolitic, insensitive. You can just go on and on. And why did he say that? I mean, being in the position that he is. So yes, and also the other thing is that people sometimes may not speak about certain things, right, but it doesn't mean that it's not there. So the impact of a comment like that, and fundamentally, the issue of Hindu-Muslim in South Asia has been a troubling issue for decades, if not centuries. We really need to be more matured and more farsighted in handling it. I mean, just to play on this religious card. Now, in Bangladesh, we have had experiences to get a certain support. You play a religious card just to get the vote. I think these are the vulnerable sides of democracy. That the tribalism, the ethnic card, the religious card to play to get elected at the moment. It costs the country immensely in the long term.
But can I say here, Mahfuz, that when Khaleda Zia of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party was in power for several years, at the time, the Hindu population in Bangladesh was also extremely insecure. And then there were several killings. I won't use the word massacre, but they were targeted killings against the population.
I mean, listen, none of our records are clean on this matter, but we have to move on, I mean, and I think in Bangladesh, we are moving on. We are trying to, but I will repeat this issue of religion in politics. Even yesterday, Sheikh Hasina, in her Victory Day speech, made a very strong statement about religion not being used in politics. So we can't say that it has disappeared in Bangladesh.
Right.
But we are fighting it. But unfortunately, it is the reverse in India, that it is the leadership which is fanning it and not fighting it, unlike in Bangladesh where the leadership is fighting it.
So when the Prime Minister came to India, when Sheikh Hasina came to India over a year ago, I think almost 2 years ago, this subject did come up. And the message was that this is entirely an Indian domestic political issue and it has nothing to do with Bangladesh. But do you feel that there is this undercurrent of tension between the two countries today?
On the issue of religion?
Yes, and on the issue of the CAA and the NRC, the National Register of Citizens.
I think there is an undercurrent of discomfort. Indians can say that this is absolutely Indian, nothing to do. It's like you are saying air pollution in the border area or air pollution in the neighboring country has nothing to do with the air pollution on the neighbor. It doesn't happen like this. This is a legacy, a very problematic legacy, which I think encompasses the whole subcontinent. And it is very important. I mean, I am a strong believer in collaborative India-Bangladesh relations. I think in a way we can be an example to the world, how good neighbors with such differences can cooperate and move on. So when I look at in that context of a very collaborative relationship, a relationship that contributes to the growth of both countries, issues like this, in the depth of my feeling, makes me uncomfortable.
So can I ask you now, 50 years ago, Mahfuz, if we're talking about the birth of your country, at the time, China was a big supporter of Pakistan in the Bangladeshi war for independence. The Americans also were supporters. We know that the Soviet Union was on the side of India. But in 1972, when Bangladesh applied to become a member of the United Nations, China threatened to veto that. Now, 50 years later, China is a big presence in Bangladesh. How do you explain this huge shift?
No, again, I think you have to see it in terms of evolution. I mean, you don't expect Bangladesh to remain in 1972 or 70, at that era. And I think the one of the other side of the story is the enormous success of China itself. I mean, today the presence of China is strongly on the economy. Their contribution to our various mega projects and all that. So the reality is that China has grown. It has become the second biggest economy in the world, and it has a lot of surplus, if you like, funds to invest. And Bangladesh needs a huge investment in infrastructure. But I mean, as a journalist, as an editor, as a big follower of India-Bangladesh relationship, I think it would be a mistake to juxtapose, Bangladesh's closeness to India by how we are dealing with China. I mean, obviously in India, you have a particular view of China, and it looms very large in your mind. So
because also they are sitting on Indian territory even as we speak.
Right. So we wish that India and China didn't have these problems, but the reality is that you do, and that looms very large in your mind, and it almost like intuitive on your part to think of another country and judge it by how they are dealing with China.
Right.
I would like to re-emphasize that our friendship and collaboration with China is based on a mutual interest, India's self-interest and Bangladesh's self-interest. We in Bangladesh have learned, and I think learned it very well, that our collaborative relationship with India, in spite of the differences we may have, in spite of the problems we have, problems we will solve through discussion. But the fundamental nature of the relationship will be collaborative. So please don't judge the quality of that relationship by how we deal with China. It's a separate relationship, and mostly it is, I would say, linked to our developmental needs.
But it's discomforting that China is expanding its influence across Bangladesh, whether it's the Padma Bridge that is being built over the Padma River, or the tunnel, the Karnapuli tunnel, and several other projects. I mean, you talk about it being an economic relationship, but surely it's more than that.
Well, it may appear to you, but sitting in Bangladesh, it is, if you like, a relationship where we needed these investments. I mean, there was no other country who would have been given us support in these projects as China did. I would reiterate that China's presence in Bangladesh, I mean, you should not look at it either or. And I also think this is one of the big success of Sheikh Hasina's government, that it has solidified its relationship with India and also reached out to other countries. I mean, now we have very good relationship with Russia. Russia is building our, nuclear plant. Japan is very strongly involved in our economic activities. America has been a big partner in our trade, and China is also there. And it is, I mean, it's a part of our growing up and becoming, a more vibrant economy. I really don't see the type of worrying elements in it as you might see it from India.
So, obviously Sheikh Hasina comes out as quite a pragmatist, doesn't she?
Yes, she does. And I think we should all give her the credit. I mean, that she has a vision of the region, stable, prosperous region. And I think her commitment to a relationship with India is beyond question.
She's quite an interesting character. I mean, when she won the elections again a year ago, 2 years ago, we're in 2020 now, when she won the elections again, it seemed that, she's a very sort of a strong-willed, strong-minded person, was not willing to give any leeway to the opposition, BNP. And that also came across as something that was a bit odd. But, she's very strong in what she says. I mean, the opposition leader is in jail on corruption charges. I mean, in South Asia, we all know what corruption is all about. But to keep her in jail, I mean, Sheikh Hasina is quite, at the risk of repeating myself, a remarkably strong person.
Well, sometimes strength can also prove to be a weakness. I mean, I will give Sheikh Hasina a lot of credit. She's a visionary leader, a strong leader. She has a vision of Bangladesh which comes from her heart. She strongly believes, in a bright future of Bangladesh. But on the democracy side, unfortunately I cannot give her the same allocates as I would give her on the development side. There is a lot of intolerance. There is a lot of control of the press. There is a lot of coming down on the dissenting voices, which I think she doesn't need to do. Her own performance speaks for her own success, but the intolerance for dissent is quite unfortunate, and I think it hampers Bangladesh's ultimate evolution into a more matured democratic society.
Well, perhaps that's a South Asian trait, but what was fascinating for me was that just a few weeks ago, she met the Pakistani envoy to Bangladesh. I mean, that got a lot of play. Here you are celebrating your 50th anniversary of independence from Pakistan, and the poor guy comes to meet the Prime Minister, and she sonaws him her mind. She says, look, we will never forget what happened. And I'm not sure if the guy was squirming in his seat, but, she told him what she wanted to say. She met him. That was interesting.
So, I mean, that's her. She met him, which I think, again, since we have diplomatic relationship with Pakistan, it is the courtesy that ambassadors should call. But on the other hand, she speaks her mind. So that's what makes her interesting. And also, the other thing is that, Bangladesh actually needed, if you like, a very determined leadership to overcome many of its economic problems. So in many sense, I'm a great admirer of her leadership, but I'm also a big critic, because as a member of the press, as somebody who understands the value of dissent, because if you want to really fight corruption, if you want to fight, all the other weaknesses in the society, you can't do without a free press. And there is, I think, a mental block on the part of Sheikh Hasina that she really doesn't want to accommodate a dissenting voice. But as you said, it's a South Asian trait. Maybe we are a part of that. But she has done wonders for Bangladesh, and I think her own success should encourage her, give her the confidence to be more receptive to dissenting views.
Well, perhaps we're all going to swallow our words, Mahfuz, because Bangladesh is doing so well on the economic front. Your per capita GDP is even higher than India. And as Ashikur Rahman, the young economist at the Bangladesh Policy Research Institute, just wrote, he said, well, the termite nation is shining. So I think we will all have to swallow our words sooner than later about Prime Minister Hasina's abilities. But definitely, yeah. Go ahead.
But this is exactly where maturity comes in. That there are certain psychology that you need to overcome your vicissitudes, overcome your limitations. Certain mindset that you need to fight against odds. But then you need another set of mindset when you have overcome the immediate odds, but you are now looking for greater goals. So, yes, economic benefit, economic growth is wonderful, and Bangladesh needed it. The other important side of it is that Bangladesh was always branded as a country that will have to be held together by others, helped by others, will have to be pulled forward.
People like a basket case.
But I mean, I don't want to repeat that phrase, but basket case, yes. Now that it has become a prospective case, or it's a basket full of things, that growth is very important, and we needed it. And in Bangladesh, always being looked in a sort of like with a sympathy rather than with admiration, it is very important. So that's why Sheikh Hasina's leadership is also very relevant and pertinent, because she has given us a new sense of pride.
Yeah.
But more important, a performance-based self-confidence. But this is the moment to be more visionary, and that's where I'm urging and hoping that she'll be more accommodative of dissent.
I'm just wondering that SAARC, which is the South Asian Regional Cooperation Organization, which is like a dead letter. I don't think anybody even talks about it anymore. Does Bangladesh miss the fact that there is such a regional organization, which is sort of dead, at least for the moment, right now?
Well, if it is dead, you guys had a lot of contribution to it.
Are you talking about India?
Well, I think India relationship with Pakistan and its deterioration over time had a death knell on SAARC, and there is no possibility of future SAARC unless India-Pakistan relationship improves. I think as the world experience have shown that cooperations of all sorts are important, and South Asia is particularly known for a lack of cooperation within. Now we have BIMSTEC, we have now Bay of Bengal initiative, we have a lot of things, but SAARC is not a bad idea. I mean, if it worked, but it will not till India-Pakistan relationship improves, and the signs of that are not really in the horizon yet.
But are you exasperated by this, as a Bangladeshi, as a non-Indian, non-Pakistani, are you exasperated that India and Pakistan cannot seem to get start some sort of dialogue? And
yeah, exasperated, disappointed, and also, because what happens in anything to do with South Asia, ultimately, if we do, India-Pakistan dominates. I have attended so many regional meetings, and ultimately Pakistan and India delegation, they start talking, and then the whole agenda goes in one direction. So it is sad. I really don't want to comment on India-Pakistan relationship because it's very complex. There are many dimensions to it. But if I may just make as a citizen of South Asia, comment, I think that the two major countries of South Asia hasn't been able to cooperate.
Yeah, and that is concerning for people who outside India and Pakistan, of course.
For the whole region, I mean, obviously I mean, if Pakistan, India, they've been at war, if they go to future wars, I mean, we are all directly or indirectly dragged into the, if not physically or economically, but psychologically, you know. I mean, there is the psychology that South Asia cannot cooperate and that we are always fighting with each other. And then other things become, you know, like who is on which side? Is Nepal with me or with them, or is Sri Lanka here or there? I mean, so it's a divisive psychology that goes down into the goes downwards. I mean, we just hope.
But what would you like India Pakistan to do?
No, your relationship is much too complex. I mean, Kashmir remains, the center of it all. And again, Kashmir hasn't really been solved. After Palestine, Kashmir is now, I think, the oldest regional or conflict there is in the world.
Kashmir is fully integrated with the Indian Union. You saw that last year in August of 2019.
Yes,
whatever the issues are now, they're Indian issues. They're Indian
right.
issues. So you can argue that the Indian government has done it unilaterally. That's a separate argument. But at least it's happened.
Again, listen, it's not for me to actually comment on that. But as a South Asian, I mean, my only, if you like, right to speak about it is a South Asian.
There's a full right to speak, absolutely.
No, it is because we are a part of the world which is poverty stricken. So many people are below poverty line. We really need to do much more for our people. And the fact that so much of our resources are diverted for military preparation because of the India-Pakistan. I mean, these are all issues. You know it very well. I know it very well. I mean, we just hope that we live in peace.
I was very interested in we talked about the Bangladesh-China relationship, especially on the economic side, and you said that India needn't be worried about this, the investment, the enormous Chinese investment into Bangladesh. But what was interesting was that the Chinese offered you a COVID vaccine, and you basically told the Chinese to get lost. And I think the Chinese wanted you to pay for the trials that are going to be taking place inside Bangladesh. And you said, listen, either you pay for it themselves or forget about it.
Right.
So what happened there? If you're supposed to be this bhai.
No. I mean, listen, I mean, you're just putting it in a box sort of a thing. I mean, China is helping us in the economic front. We definitely have many differences in other areas. So it's
like what?
No, it's I mean, just the COVID you said, I mean, it didn't suit our national interest. So we just said, you just can't do this COVID test like this. There are sometimes issues of, say, corruption in Chinese projects. And we raise it with them. I mean, it is really not an either-or situation. Bangladesh is now matured, not hopefully, we have come a long way, 50 years. We deal with other countries on our own self-interest, and it is our self-interest, I repeat, it is our self-interest that brings us close to India. It is our self-interest that makes us reach out to other countries of the world, of the region, including China.
And the fact that the Indians India and Bangladesh are now reopening a lot of the old trade routes, the connectivity. There is a railway line that has been stuck since 1965. I mean, that's quite incredible that that's being revamped.
Right. So these are, I see as a sign of our relationship maturing. The Indian lines of credit on many items. I really hope as we rediscover our economic convergencies, our mutual dependencies, the trade and investment will further grow.
It seems to me that we are competing for Bangladesh's affections in China.
Well, you have an edge because of 71.
Well, not just of course, 17-1 was a huge moment and in all our lives. And
Yes.
we hope that that spirit of friendship continues and takes us both our countries. But Mahfuz Anam, thank you so much for your time and for speaking to ThePrint.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. All the best.
All the best. Thank you.